They pointed fingers at you, didn't they? Like hounds around a wounded deer. Smirking, snickering, watching, waiting. They thought you'd cry, thought you'd crawl, thought you'd break. They wanted a mess, a meltdown, a moment of collapse they could gossip about over coffee or mask behind fake concern. But what did they get instead? A grin, a quiet, dangerous grin. Because what they didn't know was, the fire inside you doesn't burn out, it erupts. And when the ashes clear, you don't return as the victim. You return as the villain in their bedtime stories, the misunderstood hero forged in shadows, baptized by betrayal and trained by torment. They wanted a tragedy. But you became a legend. They underestimated the silence. They thought your quiet was weakness, that your stillness was surrender. But in reality, it was calculation. You weren't shutting down, you were loading, planning, crafting a new version of yourself piece by piece, while they laughed too loudly to hear the ticking bomb under their feet. You see, people love a broken soul, until that soul stitches itself back together with barbed wire and broken glass. They love to kick you when you're down, until you stand up and stare back with eyes that have seen hell and didn't blink. You didn't fight back with fists, you fought back with evolution, with silence, with growth so violent it tore the skin of your old self just to make room for someone even darker, stronger, wiser. They called you fragile, now they call you cold. But deep down, they're just scared of the monster they made. They tested you like a science project gone wrong, poked at your scars, measured your pain tolerance, played with your emotions like it was a game, thinking you'd fold, thinking you'd break. But you didn't break, you transformed. Because real pain doesn't create weakness, it creates monsters with purpose. And while they were busy building stories about your downfall, you were building armor, not the kind you wear, but the kind that becomes you. Now your smile is unsettling, your silence is unnerving, your presence unignorable. You're no longer part of their game. You are the game. They expected you to beg, expected apologies, tears, regret. Instead, they got distance, they got echoes, they got your absence so loud it deafened their lies. And now you haunt their minds in the quiet, because nothing scares a manipulator more than the realization that their favorite puppet cut the strings. You didn't need revenge, you needed clarity. And once you saw them clearly, you realized they were never worthy of your pain. There was a time when you would have done anything for them, bent until your spine snapped, smiled while bleeding, offered loyalty like a sacrificial lamb on an altar of betrayal. But not anymore. Now when they knock, you don't answer. When they cry, you don't care. When they lie, you watch silently as they drown in their own web. You don't save them. Because once upon a time, they chose to watch you suffer. Now it's your turn to choose. And you choose silence. Because silence screams louder than any revenge. They labeled you difficult, bitter, cold-hearted. But they forgot who wrote that script. They forgot why you became that way. You weren't born cruel. You were molded. Every betrayal sharpened your edges. Every lie painted your smile with venom. Every abandonment became a stepping stone to your detachment. And now you walk with a calmness that shakes them, a stillness they can't interpret. You don't react, you observe. And when the time is right, you rise, not with noise, but with impact. They wanted a victim. You became a reckoning. People don't like when the person they tried to bury grows roots. They hate when the one they mocked becomes untouchable, because it proves something they can't stomach, that they were wrong about you. And nothing enrages an insecure soul more than your growth without their permission. You see, they needed you to stay broken, because your healing challenges their narrative. Your success exposes their failure. Your strength makes their weakness undeniable. So they'll lie, they'll gossip, they'll twist your name into something ugly. But it won't matter. Because truth doesn't need to scream, it just needs to survive. And you've done more than survive. You've ascended. They thought you were a phase, a stepping stone, a background character in their spotlight. But now you're the main event. Now they're just side notes in your origin story. You were never meant to fit into their mold. You were meant to shatter it. They wanted someone to exploit. Instead, they awakened someone who remembers everything, who learned, who adapted, who became untouchable, not because they're perfect, but because they made peace with their demons and shook hands with their pain. You became what they feared, someone they couldn't break, manipulate, or control. They told people you changed. They're right, but not in the way they want others to believe. You changed your boundaries. You changed your expectations. You changed the rules of the game because you realized your worth doesn't require validation. You realized that your value isn't up for debate. And most importantly, you realized that walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous, because the moment you stop caring about their opinions, you become invincible. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them act like they still hold weight in your story. Because you know the truth, and truth doesn't need an audience. You're not out here for applause. You're not chasing closure. You're becoming the closure. Their insults, outdated. Their version of you, archived. Their relevance in your life, deleted. You don't owe them a response. You owe yourself freedom. And that's exactly what you've claimed, not in revenge, but in rebirth. They wanted you emotional, fragile, predictable. But the version of you that exists now, you're emotionally bulletproof. You're psychologically untouchable. You're spiritually weaponized. You became a fortress, a phantom, a force of nature disguised as a human being. And now they pray they never see your name again, not because they hate you, but because your presence reminds them of who they really are. Cowards, liars, users. And you became the one thing they never prepared for, a self-respecting soul with nothing left to lose. So wear the scars like medals. Walk alone with pride. Let your past echo in the halls of their regret. Because the story isn't, you got hurt. It's, you survived what was meant to destroy you. You were the storm they tried to outrun, the fire they thought they'd extinguished, the ghost they believed would never rise again. But you rose, not as a broken victim, but as a hero written in darkness, the kind that doesn't need a cape, the kind that doesn't ask for forgiveness, the kind that smiles when the world burns. Because they know they walked through fire first. Let them remember. Let them taste regret like blood in their mouth. Because while they whispered behind your back, you were building an empire in silence. And now they get to watch from a distance as the victim they created becomes the hero they never deserved. Now they get to watch from a distance as the victim they created becomes the hero they never deserved. And that's the part that shreds them from the inside out. Because you didn't just survive them, you thrived because of them. They were the ashes, but you were the spark. They thought they were burying you under weight you couldn't carry. But you weren't being buried. You were being planted. And now the roots of your rebirth have cracked their foundations wide open. You didn't just escape their prison. You turned it into a throne. Because you're not just out here healing, you're building. And every step forward is a siren in their ears. They watch from the sidelines now, jealous of your calm, envious of your silence, haunted by your success. They stalk your glow in the dark, hoping to find a flicker of that old version of you, the one they could control, the one they could manipulate. But that version is dead and buried. You buried it with your apologies, with your self-doubt, with your fear of being alone. And now what stands in its place is something they can't even begin to understand. You're not playing their game anymore. You're writing new rules in ink made of experience, pain, and power. No more people-pleasing. No more softening your edge just to make them comfortable. No more justifying your light to those who live in shadows. Let them say, "You've changed," because you have. And if that terrifies them, good, because it should. You're not built for their comfort anymore. You're built for your destiny. And that destiny doesn't involve explaining yourself to cowards who tremble at the sight of someone unafraid to walk away. Remember this: the ones who tried to break you were never stronger than you. They were just louder. And for a while, they confused volume with value. But strength isn't in noise. It's in the one who watches quietly, waits patiently, and then strikes without emotion. That's who you are now. Unapologetic, unshaken, unstoppable. You don't need their closure because you already have your conclusion. They tried to control your narrative. Now you're writing a new one with ink dipped in vengeance, but not the loud kind, the kind that comes in the form of peace they can't destroy. Let them choke on your silence. Let them drown in the echo of your absence, because your silence, it's not emptiness, it's strategy. It's power they don't understand. It's control they never imagined you'd gain. The less you say, the more they wonder. The more they wonder, the more they spiral. You don't have to show them you're winning. They already know. Because real revenge doesn't come in screaming. It comes in success so loud, it makes their failure unbearable. And while they stalk, gossip, and invent stories about you, you're somewhere smiling. Not because you hate them, but because you no longer need them. They thought you'd fade, that without them, you'd vanish. But instead, you glowed in solitude. And now your light blinds the very people who thought they dimmed it forever. They wanted you to feel small. But now your presence is so massive, it casts shadows over everything they do. You became unreachable, not because you're better, but because you elevated while they stagnated. They'll keep circling, they'll keep watching, because they need a reaction from you to feel relevant again. But you've grown beyond reaction. You've stepped into domination. And domination isn't loud, it's inevitable. They don't miss you. They miss the access to you. They miss the version of you that didn't know better. The version that gave endlessly, that loved recklessly, that forgave foolishly. But that version, it's never coming back. You've evolved beyond return. You're no longer running toward people. You're walking toward purpose, toward peace, toward power. And they're stuck where you left them, in a world built on manipulation and masks. Let them rot there. Because now, you've become something dangerous, someone with nothing left to prove. This world doesn't celebrate silent strength. It fears it, and that's why they tremble. Because you're no longer the one yelling, "Look at me." You're the one they can't stop looking at. Not because you're loud, but because your transformation is undeniable. Your confidence now, it walks into rooms before you do. Your boundaries now, they're made of steel. And your heart, it's still capable of love. But now it loves selectively, ruthlessly, intelligently. So let them keep talking. Let them try to rewrite your story. But remember, they don't hold the pen anymore. You do. You are the author now. And the next chapter? It's not about revenge. It's about rising so far above them. They can only see your reflection in the sky. Let them ask, how did you become this? Let your silence answer. Because legends don't explain themselves. They just exist, unbothered, untouchable, unmatched. And when they whisper your name in circles filled with regret, let them. Let them taste the loss. Let them feel the void. Let them realize too late that what they tried to destroy was the very thing that would have saved them. But now you've become something they can't manipulate, can't cage, can't touch. You've become the version of yourself that was always hidden beneath the wounds. And now that you've awakened, there's no going back. Not for them. And sure as hell, not for you.